Hail, hail. Good evening, folks, and welcome along to the Wednesday night double pivot show of the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm Anthony, and the host chair tonight. Feels like a wee while since we've all been on together. We had a little bit of an international break ourselves, so we did, but obviously we're back in action now. The Celts will be back at the weekend, and we've got plenty to get stuck into. And I'm delighted to be joined by two of the show regulars. First of all, our Northern Irish captain, Stephen. How are you, mate?
Oh, Northern Irish captain. I don't know how I feel about that, to be fair. But,
it was out my mouth before I said it. I thought, I'll maybe just stick to Irish.
That was like one of them ones you want to retract that straight away. I'm only joking. But I'm looking forward to it. As you said, how do we break ourselves? But I think it was well deserved. We've done a lot of shows in the last couple of weeks and stuff, so we're back and we're ready to go with a double pivot. Some interesting talking points coming up, so ready to get stuck in.
Nice one, mate. Looking forward to it. And also welcoming Jed as well. So although we've had a bit of a break ourselves, Jed, it looks like you've been in the wars with your with the injuries you were showing us before you came on. It's like you're like the Celtic treatment table here.
Yeah, old age, felt today. Definitely think I broke maybe the two fingers. But I've survived. I'm here to do the show tonight, so people can slag me. So as the old man's fell again.
You still look a fine picture of health regardless, mate. And welcome all. A few of the regulars are on commenting already. Always good to have you on. And we'll just we'll briefly discuss the international break before we get right into all things Celtic against Stephen. And I suppose very much from a Scotland viewpoint, it was we'll discuss the results and stuff in a second. But I did think, I know it's not necessarily your favourite section of football, but I have to say Northern Ireland acquitted themselves very well last night. I felt at Hampden. I think obviously Scotland had the lion's share of possession, which we would come to expect. But Northern Ireland took their goal well, and there certainly seemed to be I know they're very much in a transitional phase at the minute, but it looked like there was some shoots of recovery for the future with some of the young players that were on display.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, it was the first time I watched the north of Ireland and Scotland in a wee while, to be honest. And watching it, I caught the second half, I had the kids the first half, and I was dropping them back home. But what I did notice about the Northern Irish team was they were very, I would say, very quick. They had some good pace in the team. Brodie Spencer, Isaac Price, who was the other wee fella, Trey Hume, Connor Bradley scored that brilliant goal. They're probably lacking still in the forward areas. Josh McGuinness isn't great. He was no great shakes in the SPFL either. Trying to think is who else was in the team. Peacock Farrell, he's a decent goalkeeper, to be fair. But yeah, one thing about Michael O'Neill, he knows how to steady his ship. And he was renowned for that the first time around with the Northern Irish national team. And I think they had a disappointing campaign. They're not qualified for the Euros, which is disappointing for them. But look, he's a guy who's experienced, and he's bringing through a lot of young guys, like you said, the likes of. I mean, I remember Aaron Hughes was playing until he was 40 for Northern Ireland. Johnny Evans is like 36, and he's still kicking about. Stephen Davis just retired. Man, the much talked about Stephen Davis, asshole. But look, it's just it's one of these things. I think that the Northern Irish team needed a lot of injection of youth, and they're finally doing that. I thought for years they relied upon too many players who were around the block in their 30s, just the same old type thing. And I think Michael O'Neill's recognised that, and he's trying to bring through the youth. Some did impress me. I put in the group chat last night, and look, I'm not saying I advocate for any of these players to join Celtic, no, but I mean, the likes of Trey Hume, I thought he gave Kieran Tierney and who was the fella come up against him? I can't remember, but Christie at points, I thought he'd get in their heads in that game, and he was really taking it to them. He didn't shirk away from a challenge. I thought Brodie Spencer, as I said, was a warrior in the middle of the pitch. I thought he was getting in about it. And for me, the Northern Irish team showed what Scotland should have at their home patch, a bit of enthusiasm, a bit of dig, a bit of passion and energy. But look, again, Steve Clark and his men are going to the Euros, and that's something to be celebrated as well from a Scottish point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the countdown to the summer is fast approaching. Jed, I don't know how much if you tuned into the two games over the piece, sort of for, in regards to, a Scotland point of view. I think very much it was a case of, I certainly didn't go over there expecting a win against Holland, but I was quite impressed, to be fair, with just how well we played against a team that's very much having a resurgence. But it looks like they're getting back to their past highs, especially with someone like Virgil van Dijk at the back. But Scotland played really well, I felt, for most of the game. Should have been level. We missed a lot of chances. I think we were joking in the group chat at one point. It was like watching Celtic in Europe. But I think we have to remember it was a friendly, and once those rafter substitutions were made, the guys, the kind of we switched off a little bit, and Holland took full advantage of that. And I would say the same as well. I mean, I was very much more on James McFadden's side last night than Jonathan Sutherland's sort of point of view. As much as you never like to not win, or it's not a case of dropping points, but not pick up a victory at home. I think, as Stephen says, and as Steve Clark said as well, he says it's all about getting ready for the summer, and provided, regardless of how it pans out, as long as we have a good account of ourselves and play a lot better than what we did last night, then I think these games will be very quickly forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the two games I did watch Friday night and then I watched last night. It was two, I feel, totally different performances. I thought we'd done very well against Holland. I didn't feel it was a 4-0 result. I know, as you touched on there, Anthony, I did put in the chat, it was like watching Celtic playing. I thought they acquitted themselves really well. And again, it was like watching Celtic, the opposition, the first shot on target, they scored with it. And then we just kind of collapsed near the end. But last night, I agree with what you said, Stephen. I thought the Northern Irish right back had a good game, but I actually thought Tierney had a decent game, and especially in the second half. He seemed to just take that role on. But what I think it has shown over the last two games is we do maybe have a strong 11, but we've not really got the backup. Then if somebody's injured, I mean, somebody just put up there Patterson, and I think I said last night as well, in the chat, it shows you how much we miss Hickey playing for Scotland. Patterson, I thought, had a poor game, and I wouldn't have felt with the crowd being on his back, but he was poor. I thought McGinn was poor as well. I just thought there was just nothing up front. There was just nothing. Yeah, we had all the possession, but just nothing really to show for it. We had the half chance when Shankland, they turned and they hurt it and the boy cleared it. That was really it. There was a save, I think, wasn't there, near the end? But that was really it. And you're going to give credit to the opposition because they defended well, and they had a point to prove. They looked up for it more than what we did.
I think from an outsider looking at the game, I kind of put it in the chat last night. I know Scotland's formation predominantly focuses around wing backs, tightening the midfield, and possibly two up front. But to change that, and if it's not going well, for me anyway, I want wingers to come on the pitch to take on their men, get into the box that way, and fire quick crosses across the 6-yard line. And look, that's a system thing, and maybe Steve Clark isn't in favour of that. But I thought that was, for me, lacking in the Scottish game. Pace. Yeah, they've got good physicality. I mean, Lewis Ferguson, he's a big unit. Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, Ryan Christie can move, but there's no one with that blister and pace, if you get me, to kind of eliminate an opponent or an opposition player and get into the box. Again, it was like watching Celtic, like you said. And I think if you look at the Holland game, I didn't catch it, but the drift I'm getting is Scotland didn't take their chances, and then the world-class quality of Holland shone through. They were street smart. They probably took their chances when they had them and they presented themselves, and that's something I think the smaller nations in terms of Scotland probably need to do better. John McGinn last night, I'll be honest, I thought he was pathetic trying to win free kicks, trying to dive and all. I didn't understand what point he was trying to prove. It actually kind of annoyed me. It was like, why are you trying to buy free kicks from the referee? Why are you trying to buy a penalty? It's Northern Ireland. It's not Brazil. Do you know what I mean? You should have enough quality within your team to at least get a draw at Hampden Park. And look, as you said, Anthony, the bigger picture for the Scotland national team is going to the Euros. But on evidence of last night and the evidence of not winning the 7 games, and I know there's context to that, the kind of, and the vibe I got around Hampden in terms of on the TV, it was booing. It was a lot of frustration, a lot of a lot of booze crept in, especially even towards the end of the game. The game wasn't even finished, and I don't know the situation around that. Obviously, the loss of form and things, but it's not good for me. That wouldn't be good enough. And getting into the Euros, I'd rather win than lose. To be fair, you need that confidence, you need that momentum to be carried on in a major tournament. And so far, at the minute, Scotland don't have it.
Well, if you look also...
Thank God we're playing Gibraltar in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'll get back to that, but on you go, Jed.
If you look at Germany went to France and beat them in their own backyard. They then beat Holland last night as well. And go back to Friday night, you've seen the strength and depth of the Holland squad. When they were making substitutions, they were replacing quality with quality. And even last night, from a total selfish point of view, I was like that. Please don't put on Ralston, because I wasn't wanting him going on in case he get injured. And that because it wasn't a competitive match, it was like that. No, I know Parsons having a nightmare, but don't take him off and bring Ralston on. So I was quite pleased that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, like we say, one of the things I like to, come back to yourself, Jed, and it's something I was talking about with a couple of guys at work today, and absolutely, there's definitely no shame in losing to the likes of a Holland or a France, for example. And the thing is, as well, with the fact that 7 of those games, 2 of them have been draws, and they were draws against oppositions that we'd previously beaten on the way to already, we were one of the first names in the hat alongside Germany for qualifying for next season. So, as I say, I always try and put the context to it. But he made a point, and it is a bit of a fair point. When we'd obviously been on that great run, and then the first match where this kind of, you could say, you say that this little slump that we've had came against England, and obviously there's no denying, England are a very good side as well, regardless of what you think of how they're covered and by the media or whatever. There's no denying they're a big group of really good players. But I think where Scotland when they've been at their best under Steve Clarke, I would say probably the best night we would say is possibly when we beat Spain at Hampden, and that was getting right in at the opposition's faces right for the start, aggressive, the press, all the usual kind of buzzwords. And it felt, although England played great that night, don't get me wrong, I felt that there was a little bit too much respect shown to them that night. And obviously we lost, and we lost deservedly that night. Do you think that result, coupled with the kind of turnover in France that happened a couple of weeks later, do you think that's maybe just possibly dented the confidence a little bit, or do you think I'm maybe just reading a wee bit too much into it?
No, to be honest, Anthony, I can't disagree with what you said. If when I go back to the Scotland-England match, I mean, I was in Tenerife, and I remember watching it. So yeah, I was probably a few drinks in me watching it. But I thought when Scotland they got a goal back, we looked as though we were going to score again. But then England made the changes. They're bringing on quality as well. We don't have that. We don't really have the strength and depth that other international countries do have. And that was it. But then when England made the subs in that game, they just went through the gears. And yet, I thought with Lewis Ferguson, I thought he had a good game when he came on last night. He certainly never done himself any harm moving forward for the Euro Championships. But I think he's well moving forward. Is it a coincidence the last 2 games Callum McGregor wasn't playing? Because he just sits in that wee role, just tidying everything up. And look, the main thing is we're there, and we will be going up against better opposition who will come at us. So we'll allow a little bit of space, like Steve Clarke's already mentioned, and we'll hopefully can take advantage. Look, as long as we don't come back and we've not made a fool of ourselves, and everybody's going over to Germany. I know a few of the boys in the podcast going, and it'll be a great experience for them. So I hope everybody that's going over have a great time in Scotland. Do everybody proud. That's all we've got to hope.
Yeah, Callum McGregor thing. Sorry, Anthony. The Callum McGregor thing's interesting because watching what I seen of it anyway last night, I thought Billy Gilmore was lost a wee bit in there without that experience around him. I thought Scott McTominay left a lot to be desired as well last night. So that experienced head of McGregor to sweep it up and playing the ball simple probably could have helped him out not to panic and to stretch the game in the right areas to create attacking space. But yeah, I do agree. Look, it's one of these things for the Scotland nation, the Irish nation, to reach Euros is a fantastic achievement, and it's just the momentum side of things would annoy me. So I'm not I'm not a big international supporter, but I'd be really frustrated if I was a diehard Scottish fan after watching that last night.
It's funny the two you mentioned, Callum McGregor there, Stephen, and I don't know how much of the kind of local media, shall we say, or Scottish national media, you get over that side of the sea, but you'll be familiar with the name Tam McManus, the player, that young guy used to play with Hibs. He's made a bit of a name for himself in the media, and not in a positive way by any stretch. You can imagine his thoughts don't exactly challenge Einstein. But he made a ridiculous comment on Friday night where it was he said something along the lines that on the back of the Holland performance, Callum McGregor would struggle to get back into the Scotland team. Which, to be fair to the other guys in the studio, he was quickly, shot down and told to, get a grip of himself, quite frankly. And but I think we've seen again last night that the minute he's fit, Callum McGregor will walk back into that Scotland team.
Did Tam McManus say this on the back of a 4-0 defeat? I would understand if it was 4-0 win. Do you know what I mean? If the 1-4-0, maybe you could say he wasn't missed, but that is, Monty, Tam McManus is a gibbering fuckwit. That's an astonishing statement to come out with. I mean, imagine saying Celtic got beat 4-0 by Bayern Munich, and then someone coming out going, Kyogo isn't missed. It's like...
It's a bizarre thing to come away with, but that's what gets you attention and press in the Scottish media, mate. If you put a negative slant with anything Celtic, even if you can put it into the international scene, it's obviously gets given that little extra bit of gravitas in the Scottish media, as we all know. Just before we go any further, guys, I don't.
But Anthony,
sorry, Jed, on you go.
See, maybe some of the guys and girls watching be able to answer this. I can't remember Callum McGregor when he's played under Steve Clarke. He's ever been substituted. He's played the full 90 minutes. Any game he started, he has played the full 90 minutes. If I'm wrong, please somebody let me know. But that I was thinking about this today. I don't think he has been substituted, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I certainly don't recall it happening too often. If it has, to be fair.
Yeah, that tells you something about how much Steve Clarke rates him in that position, where I'm not. He's playing the full 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and the big game, he's always done it.
Absolutely, mate. Well, it's just before we go any further as well. In fact, we've got a great wee crowd joining us so far. Once we get into the sort of once we've kind of covered some of the Celtic topics tonight, folks, because it is the double pivot, we thought try and do something a wee bit different. So I'll kind of give the nod to when we're going to kind of put it over to you guys that are all watching, just to ask either one of us or all of us our views on anything football related. It can be Celtic, it can be anything else. So keep your questions, and once we get through the next couple of topics, we'll put it out, and Stephen will get the comments up, and we'll just go through what questions the viewers are asking. As I say, it can be anything Celtic or any other football question that you want to throw at one of us or all of us or whatever takes your fancy. And sort of just briefly then, Jed, before we go on to the Celtic matters, as I say, of course, it is a little bit of a way off, and we will, of course, be doing kind of more kind of targeted, we'll have a bit more of a Euro build-up when that time comes. But there's obviously, at the moment, not the results we would have wanted the last two games, but do you think that Scotland are still in a position where this group of players can be the first to get out of a group stage and reach the knockouts of a majors, and also kind of how you think some of the other big hitters are going to be going as well? I mean, obviously, I think goes without saying France and England are probably going to be right up there with the favourites, but what's your own kind of gut feeling? What do you think?
I think if we can get out of the group, that'll be, for us, that'll be like winning it, because we've never qualified. We've never got out of a group, whether it be in the Euro Championships or the World Cup. So if we can do that, I'll be over the moon. Look, I don't think we'll get anything to fear against Switzerland or Hungary. I think the three teams are very comparable. So it just depends on the day who's wanting it more. Germany, we've just got to, I think a draw would be fantastic there. We've just got to hope we don't get a doing. And by the way, what Alistair Jack's what you put up there about Alistair, I think that is a good shout. I know a few of the guys have mentioned as well. I think Portugal as the dark horses. England will never get a better opportunity to win it than now. But I do think the frailties in defence could be their downfall against, a French team, and especially France. I think France have got the making of them. So I saw definitely Portugal's an outside bet.
You're sticking a few quid on Portugal. Fair enough, mate. But I wouldn't mind seeing Portugal win it myself. I think that would be a good thing. I like to watch them play, and obviously, might possibly be Ronaldo's last tournament as well, if he does go. So yeah, it'd be what a way to bow out with another major international honour. And Stephen, I know you're waiting with bated breath for the European Championships to start. Just again, from a kind of brief overview, what do you think in terms of the big hitters that are that have a chance of winning it, but also Scotland's chances as well?
Speaking of Portugal, by the way, Paulo Bernardo scored and captained his side last night to a 6-0 win against Croatia in the under-21. So big up the Paulo Bernardo scoring and captaining the Portuguese national team, albeit youth level. But in terms of Scotland's chances, I'm looking at the group at the moment. Paul McFarlane being a bit optimistic there. Switzerland disposed of Ireland last night 2-0. Shaqiri scored twice for them, so he's a danger man. Hungary, they have that. What do you call your fellow plays for Liverpool? Sabatzlai or something? He's a really talented forward. So they've got danger men as well. I don't think Scotland are going to qualify for the group, if I'm totally honest. I think Germany will have too much for you. I think possibly a win over Hungary, but I think Switzerland will beat us as well. That's me being totally frank. But in terms of the Euros itself, look, I do like watching the major competitions. I've said this before. I'm just not keen on the international breaks and how much they disrupt a domestic football season. That just is one of my annoyances in life. I know that. But I would say my outside bet for the Euros would probably be between the likes of the Belgium. Their golden era, I think, came to an end. I know that they ran England close last night, 2 each it was. It just shows you how, as Jed said, the frailties they still have. You'd think they'd dispose of teams like that. But I would probably go maybe France, yes. And who's my other team? France or Germany, I'd go for.
Could be a host win. You just never know, mate. You just never know. Well, regardless, if international football is your thing in any shape or form, I'm sure when the time comes, we'll get right into it. As I say, we'll probably plan on doing some sort of build-up show. I know, obviously, Willie and Ross and Franny as well. To be fair, they're going to be going out to the
Franny going. So. Imagine this, Franny going, and he hates international football. It's incredible.
By the way,
listen, if I wasn't saving for living Disney Florida, I'd be there with them. Are you going yourself, Jed? Actually, you planned on going over?
No. I've got a few things organised this year, so I'll just be watching in the house. So
yeah, that's we'll be turning the house into a mini Hampden for the 3 games it's on. So as I say, when the time comes, it will be absolutely brilliant. But before then, boys, there's a few matters to take care of on the domestic scene for what it seems to be quite a lot of the guys are wanting us to get chatting about, and that is, of course, Celtic. So the boys will be back this weekend. When we were trying to put this show together, Stephen, we were sort of quite conscious not to talk too much about the game. Firstly, at Almond Vale, and then the following week against Rangers, because we've obviously got all the shows to do between then. And obviously we don't know the full outcome of Brendan's case tomorrow, so I thought we'd leave those topics for Friday night show. I'm sure whoever's on will get properly stuck into that. So we were kind of having a little bit of a chat in the group chat, weren't we? But let's just maybe throw some different things out there. That's what the double pivot show is all about. And Jed, the first one that you sort of came up with, but the subject with all these different kinds of investments, and there's a lot of chat about the current leadership at Celtic, shall we say, and if there was ever a change at the top anytime soon, perhaps some of that deal that could be made could raise a few thorny issues. And one of the ones that you sort of suggested was the naming rights to Celtic Park. It's obviously something that's a bit more kind of common down south at the minute. It's certainly far more common in the US with the American football stadiums. But again, it tends to be new stadiums that are built rather than no existing ones. But it's not unheard of either. I'll give it to your point over to yourself. What's your kind of own views on it, and kind of how do you think it would be received by the Celtic support?
Well, I've always, if you had to ask me this 5-10 years ago, I would say there's absolutely no chance at Celtic Park, it's sacrosanct, that's it. But because I have been starting to change over the years, Scottish football, basically, you can hardly get anything for winning the league. So you have to, the revenues from the sponsors, whether it be the Cinch or whatever it is, or the Scottish Cup, it's not really a lot. So you have to look at other avenues to bring in money. And that's how I thought, well, we could maybe look at this, the stadium naming rights. Let's, even if it's called Coca-Cola Stadium, Celtic Park, Coca-Cola Stadium, whatever, people are still going to call it Celtic Park or Parkhead. The vast majority of people are still going to do that. But I can't see any harm now by getting a name in. If we could get, let's be honest, we're not going to get the money at Arsenal or at the Emirates or the Etihad Stadium. They're getting, 100 million over 4 or 5 years. If we could get 5 million a year or something, yeah. By the way, I think I've mentioned Iron Brew was the boy that set up Iron Brew, the original boy, was the very first season ticket holder at Celtic Park, all the way over 100 years ago. So, but I think as well, sorry, just when I seen the can of Iron Brew there, I would, if we can bring in extra income, I'm up for looking at stadium naming rights.
Yeah, it's fair comment, mate. As you say, you look at, and Stephen, we'll use the example at the minute of perhaps one that certainly wasn't popular, and it was built and it was done to an existing ground rather than a new stadium. I think generally a lot of supporters tend to be more, accepting of it when it's a new site that they're moving to. You obviously look at Arsenal moving from Highbury to the Emirates, or Man City fans moving from Main Road to the Etihad, or well, if you're looking for mostly Manchester City fans, it would be from Stamford Bridge. But when when you look at the way that football's going, and I know we have a lot of these discussions in the group chat a lot, it's certainly going in that way, and everything seems to be kind of more and more about it's just the case of how much money you can print. I wanted to ask you your own thoughts on it, but a good point that Jed touched on there is the fact that obviously the teams in England can generate huge sums of money for given the way that the naming rights to their stadium. What would you what's your own thoughts on it, and also what do you think realistically Celtic could expect to get in terms of naming rights? And do you think what would be the if you were in charge at Celtic, what would be the figure that would get you to the table to consider doing it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, the figures can be banded around. I think Adidas pays 25 million over the 5 years. It's definitely not a season. It's over the 5 years, and that was called the biggest deal that we've ever had in shirt sponsor history, and also within the SPFL domestic terms as well. The commercial side of things, I was just trying to get it up there because I read an article saying Celtic's gate revenue is up from 37 million to 40 million. That's just inside the stadium, like gate revenue, the merchandise sold in there and stuff like that. And I think we're in the top 20 FIFA rich list. We've went into that as well. So, I mean, it is attractive to a stadium sponsor to be involved in that. It's not like we have dwindling resources and we're trying to scrape the barrel like Tony Macaroni, as Paul McFarlane said. I know that's kind of ended now. But if you look at all the major clubs within Europe, most of them tend to have a stadium sponsor. Like I think Bayern Munich have one. I think Juventus is all Allianz. They're all kind of labelled onto that. As I said, City, Arsenal, the likes of these. I think maybe United might follow suit with Jim Radcliffe. I know he wants to build a new stadium, so they might follow suit in that aspect to claw back some of the money they're going to spend on a new development. It's forward thinking because, as Jed said, I mean, winning the SPFL gets you £3 million. I know I can read, Paul? Winning the SPFL gets you £3 million, and I think all the trophies in with that. If you get a treble, you win just shy of 7 million. It's pittance, it's peanuts, and it's not enough for a club like us to survive on. And thank God we've got a fan base of millions worldwide. Thank God we do pump money into the club. But again, that comes with its own caveat. When will this board ever spend the money that the fans put into it? That's a different argument we have every single week on this podcast. If I'm looking at name sponsors, I mean, could you tie it in with the likes of an Irish firm, Dermot Desmond? I know he's heavily involved in some Irish companies, and to keep that link, keep that kind of heritage link. You never know. The Iron Brew thing, Jed managed to tie that back to history. The first ever season ticket holder was the original founder of the original Iron Brew. So there is different avenues you could go down. Figure wise, if Adidas are giving us 25 million over the course of 5 years, you're lucky probably if you're going to get 30 million over the course of however long that contract may be. I know people can say 100 million here, 50 million and that, but Adidas are paying us probably the top bracket they would give an SPFL team. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we probably can expect, 25 to 30 million, however long the contract may be. I don't know how stadium rights work in that. The only thing I'm going off is the Tony Macaroni have ended their association with Livingston, so there is obviously breakout clauses and there's contracts within that. So yeah, would I be for it? Yes, I would be for it. I think generate more incomes is a good thing. Again, we hold over 70% of the cash reserves in the Scottish League, so anything to expand that is a great thing. But I always come back to it, Anthony. Having all this money and having the pretty bank balance is fantastic, but unless you have a product on the pitch, unless you invest in the first team, you back the manager with the right equipment, then it really means fuck all.
Yeah. I think a lot of the, and certainly it's something that, you know, I sit in the main stand at Celtic. I've sat there just since Brendan's, his first season, and it's obviously the one area where it certainly wasn't built on or expanded under Fergus's stewardship. It was obviously the rest of the stadium was built around it, and you are definitely seeing that now. And even with the rest of the stadium, it's a brilliant arena for atmosphere, and I don't think anyone could dispute that. But there's no doubt that it is looking a bit dated, and it could, it could do with a bit of TLC. You would imagine if there was any kind of naming rights that you would like to think that some of that work would be done. But then again, I don't necessarily think we need sponsorship to do that. Like you said, Stephen, there is money there to renovate, or I'm not saying necessarily expand the stadium, but certainly to just bring it up to speed a little bit. Some of the facilities in it are not up to scratch, to say the least.
That's the thing, Anthony. Yeah. That's the thing that frustrates me. I mean, you look at the banners outside Celtic Park, right? Why not have a bit of imagination and make them LED? Just illuminate the actual stadium itself, and because the banners get dirty with rain, they never really get washed properly, and then it does look shit after a while when it's up. And like you said, Anthony, I don't sit in the main stand. I never have, but I've heard the toilets are literally like just a hole in the wall type thing. It's not, the facilities aren't great. So we've pumped this money into the club, and they're neglecting the stadium. They've neglected the first team squad. It's an issue that stems from top to bottom here. And like you said, Anthony, we're putting money into a new training development, which is fantastic. I'm all for that. But if you're a season ticket holder and you're going to Celtic Park and the toilets you use are shit, the facilities in the ground are crap, and even the Wi-Fi is disastrous within Celtic Park, and they meant to sign this multi-year contract with a tech company. What's happened there? Do you know what I mean? So a lot of things need sorted out within that ground. Outside of it needs sort of big time. Then the things that outside the stadium look like scaffolding, you know what I'm talking about, at the top of the stands, all rusted, look depleted. Go up and fix them. Do you know what I mean? We're the showcase club in Scottish football. Fix the stadium and get it up to proper standards. We aim to be world class in everything we do. Well, fucking make the stadium world class. It's simple. Every department needs to be the best.
Yeah. Also,
I've missed you, Stephen, these last 2 weeks. I really have. But no, listen. But it's interesting you say about the LED screen, because we did get planning permission to put one in place outside the ground, and we were told that it was going to be getting installed, and that was perfect. That was in Brendan's first season, right at the start. We were then told at the end of his first season that we were going to be building a hotel where the superstore was, with all the planning permission and all the fancy graphics, but. Needless to say, there's not been any bricks and mortar put in place yet. Jed, but obviously it was your own subject, as I say. Is it something you think will happen? And like I say, would it be something that you back if it did go ahead?
I hope it does happen, because we have to look at an extra income in that. But Stephen again made, and both of you had very, very good points about how the stadium need a little bit tarted up. What really bugs me, because every game, you'll back me up with this, Anthony, that every game for the last umpteen months of when it's been raining. It's been raining. The disabled fans section is an absolute embarrassment for our club. It's in the old jungle, right at the front. Absolutely embarrassing. They have got no cover whatsoever. You see them sitting there. My daughter always says it as well. My God, they're getting absolutely soaked. It is embarrassing. Surely we can find a place where they can get a wee bit of cover. We've got lifts in the stadium, round Asta in the Jockstein rear. There is lifts going up to the top section. Surely they can find a place to get a few hundred people, fans with wheelchairs, that can get in and they're safe from the elements. They can't, like the normal fans, if it's pouring, go inside. They're relying on somebody to take them. It's embarrassing. I will just wish the club get their finger out and do something about it. These fans put their money in as well. They deserve to be treated the exact same.
Yeah, I know they did change it. I might be wrong, but I think, and again, it's all about capacity as well. I'm sure that there was a point where they were talking about moving that section up to the kind of corner, a bit between the old jungle and get into the Jockstein stand, like you say, where the lift access and all that is, Jed. But I don't know how much of it was ever actually complete. And like you say, that the supporters that are still down the front of the North Stand are still there. And like you say, it's not a good look. It really isn't. And I've been saying it for a wee while now. I thought they were going to keep doing it a bit more once they'd done the Celtic way out the front, which I think we would all agree looks great, but it seems to have stalled after that. It seemed to be, right, okay, we're changing the pavement and then that's it. But I digress. But I think we'll move on to the next topic, Stephen. And I don't know, did we manage to get an image of said kit? And it was just when you were talking there about the deal with Adidas. This, folks, is what Footy Headlines. So anyone that follows them on social media know that they're usually relatively accurate with their predictions. They're saying that this is something along the lines of what the new hoops will look like next season. It might not be completely that, but I can't really remember a time when Footy Headlines haven't been pretty accurate. So as you can see, well, obviously naturally goes for the same green and white design. No big, raised collar or anything like that in it. And as my big brother says, it looks more akin to a rugby top probably than a football shirt. But of course, this is just a computer image. What's your thoughts on it, Jed? Just for this at the moment.
Well, I'm going to shoot you down here, Anthony, because you're being. I do prefer it to the top that we currently have at the moment. It is more traditional. What I don't like is like the breaks. It should be a continued hoop round. But was it last year for some anniversary, and it was just the plain green and white. Fantastic. I like going back to, I think our centenary year was a great top. I quite like the ones with you've got the wee button collar rather than a crew neck. I do think there's a lot of, when you see a lot of other football tops, doesn't matter what team, and I think, God, that's actually quite nice. I wish we had something like that. I just think we play on the style too much. Just keep it traditional. Just keep it traditional.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Stephen, what's your own thoughts on it? As we say, it's Footy Headlines. They're usually pretty accurate. As I say, it might not be just quite. I mean, obviously, that you would argue they perhaps got the Scotland one wrong, that they were showing Vela that they're going to win at the Euros, but they were actually all the design was right. It was just that it was a yellow trim rather than a white trim. You could actually argue that the leaked one actually would have probably been better than the one that's came out. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this proposed strip for next season?
I'm like Jed for this. I agree with what he says wholeheartedly. It needs to be a continued hoop around the shirt. All these breaks and like San Fran unbroken hoops is not a good thing for us. Celtic traditionally have always been the hoop all the way around, and it doesn't take much I mean, you don't need to play off the kit that much to make the fans happy. Do you know? I know these sponsors and stuff trying to put their own spin on it. They get design teams to look at it, but in its essence, it's a uniform so simple in its form. Do you know what I mean? It's the top. I hope someone got my reference there. I was quite proud of that. Monty's going to be in the wee second. But it's a hoop, green and white. Put the crest on, put your sponsorship on, and leave it at that. You can jazz up the away kits. You can jazz up the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th kit of the season. But you don't need to do it to the.
Bring out.
You don't need to do it to the hoops. It's traditional. World renowned. Celtic are famous for the green and white hoops. All this unbroken gaps just looks crap in my opinion. And I actually prefer, like, when I think back to when I was young, like the NTL kits under under Martin O'Neill, even when we had the Carling sponsorships and all on, it was green and white and it was mostly unbroken, and I liked all them kits. I just think throughout the 2010s up to now, New Balance messed around with it. Do you know what I mean? Adidas are doing the same thing. Just leave it alone. That's as simple as that. And as I said, you can play about with the away and the first strip, but traditional hoops for the home kit always.
But Stephen, you mentioned earlier, it is such a distinctive top. It is, as soon as somebody sees it, they know it's a Celtic top.
Yeah.
If you see a red top from the back, you don't know what that team's going to. A blue one, even the Rangers top, the blue one, they're not going to straight away. That's a Rangers top. When it's a Celtic top, everybody knows it's a Celtic top, and that's what's good and unique about it. Stop pissing about all these designs. Keep it simple and keep tradition.
Well, that kind of goes into obviously what I was going to say, and I suppose I'll probably just ask you just on the tail end of it. Perhaps give me your top three off the top of your head. But Stephen, and that was going to be my next topic, with the fact that obviously Nike have come in for a bit of criticism, shall we say, on the back of their change of the England strip with the flag at the back. Now, absolutely, we're not going down that discussion tonight, but just purely from a more Celtic point of view, if there's things that you just think are non-negotiables for a kit designer when it comes to the strips, and if you could, off the top of your head, what would be your if you did nail it down to maybe three, what would you say your favourite three hoops have been over your lifetime? And Jed, once Stephen's finished, feel free to take up that question as well.
I think for myself, I mean, the non-negotiable side of things is keep it traditional. Don't mess about with it too much and have the Celtic crest on it. As simple as that. So that's the non-negotiables. It's always, as Jed said, it's recognisable around the world. And I know different clubs have green and white, like Sporting Lisbon, Real Betis, but as Jed says, 9 times out of 10, if someone sees a green and white top in the street, that's a Celtic top. No one's saying Real Betis or no one's saying Sporting Lisbon, so we're world renowned for the hoops. I would always keep it simple. In terms of my favourites, you all about just green and white, or any in particular? Or
we'll change that in your top three Celtic kits of all time, if you narrow it down.
Right, okay. So I'll have to pick the green and white one. Probably for my first memories properly of Celtic playing would have been the season before Seville, that green and white one.
Yep.
Yeah. My favourite away kit, hands down, is the black and gold one. I had that one with Petrov on the back of it. That might have been a
Yes.
third kit, but
The original Black Magic kit,
Mhm.
Henrik's
Yes.
final season,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
gold Umbro down the side,
Yeah.
lovely kit, really good
I had
choice.
Petrov on the back of mine, and the other one. See, I know I'm saying about designs here, right, and stuff. Keep the hoops the way it is, 100%. But I quite like the wee the bumblebees and the pink jerseys as well. I wasn't too down. I didn't mind them, but if I had to go for it, I have to go for the Paddy McCourt bumblebee. He does that bumblebee top just reminds me of him. So it does. So I would go with
obviously that was Nike's updated version
Yeah.
from the original in the 90s. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've still got that in the drawer somewhere. I actually think that
So
might
do
have
I.
been the first Celtic kit that Lisa bought me. So yeah, it's got to always stay. Sentimental value and all that. Another good choice, mate. Although I think obviously it didn't get quite the iconic love that the original did, but it was a fresh look. Don't get me wrong. And I really liked it. I wore it to a lot of the games that season.
But that's just my lifetime. I know you have a plethora of kits, but I'm just picking from what I actually seen us play live in. Do you know what I mean?
3 good choices, mate. Absolutely. And Jed, what about yourself? Just as I say, what would you probably kind of answered it with your last thing. Your non-negotiables if you're in charge of the kits, and what if you to narrow it down to 3? What would you say your favourite ones have been over the years?
The 1985 season. When we won the league in the last game of the season against St Mirren. I know we had the way top on that day, but that was cracking. And then the centenary top, I know the badge had changed to the Celtic cross, but I can understand why they've done it, because originally when the club was founded, that was the badge. So I can understand that. I loved that kit. Stephen made a great point about the away kits. I like the black tops. I think that we've had a lot of really nice black top, including this season's one. And like you said, Steve, you can play about with designs and colours with their away tops. So they've got a wee bit of scope there. They can go a wee bit of, they've got carte blanche to do with the one basically. But with the hoops, I like 85 and the centenary year 88 for me was the best kits for me.
Yeah, no, you can't really argue. I mean, I'd
What
probably
about you, Anthony?
I would probably say my two of my 3 favourites have been kits that I didn't see in the flesh. I mean, 67 kits, quite iconic, and obviously 88 for the centenary. They would probably be my 2 favourites, Jed. But if I was probably saying, if I'm going down your way, Stephen, like the 3 that I've kind of seen us play in, and again, it's probably with the fact that it was the one that we wore when we stopped at 10, was the double Umbro hoops 97-98 season. So we were, it kind of just showed perhaps where we were at the time.
That was a big Umbro, wasn't it? Big Umbro. Yep.
That's it. Umbro were our kit makers.
Yeah.
But then there was, what's the issues? We tried to find a sponsor. They ended up being the main kit sponsor, like the sponsor on the front as well. But obviously, again, that was perhaps controversial at the time because it did kind of break the hoop. And obviously, and all the greens had little kind of diamonds through it, through all the green hoops. So I don't think it was universally loved at the start, but obviously it's kind of went down in history since. Obviously, the one we wore was Henrik's first hoop sort of thing. I loved the kit that we wore in the UEFA Cup final that then became the 2003-4 top, the double winning year under O'Neill. That was a lot. I did the couple of buttons at the collar. I loved that kit. And it's a wee bit, again, it's more a traditional looking kit. And it kind of went under the radar because obviously we've had the 50th anniversary strips and all that since. But the 40th anniversary kit for Lisbon that we brought out under Gordon Strachan, and it had the kind of gold trim round the crest, just for the 40th anniversary. I thought that was a really nice kit as well. But again, I think that was sort of when we were going into the era of only wearing strips for one season. It can be quite hard to sometimes remember which year was which, but I'd probably say they were my three favourite top. If I had to pick an away kit off the top of it, I mean the original Bumbles was my first ever Celtic strip. But I also loved the Martin's treble winning year, the gold kit with the muddy green shorts and the muddy green socks. I think we I'm pretty sure there was a chat that Henrik, he was out injured at the time. He had some sort of, there was a rumour going about at the time. I don't know if it was true that Henrik had some sort of say in the design of it, and if he did, he's clearly as much a guy with fashion as he was with a football at his feet. John's just asked about the one we won at Love Street. My brother got me that kit for my birthday one year, John. It was a cracking strip, the retro version, obviously, and I do wear it quite often. It's a lovely kit as well.
Anthony,
yeah.
What's it? I mean, Jed too. What's your thoughts on the People's kit, the one with a different coloured sponsor? I see a lot of people online now, like they've got it in like retro collections and stuff like that, and it's gained a bit of hype and stuff, and probably goes for a bit of money. But did you like that kit, or was it just as horrible as people said it was?
Both the home and the away kit. I mean, it was obviously, I was really young at the time, but you asked people about it, and I think one of the big things was it was Ford People's, so the Ford logo is obviously blue. People's was a red graphic at the time, a red print. So on the green and white hoops, you had quite, predominant red and blue, which I don't think went down very well. Stephen, as I say, I mean, lads, looking back, it's just another kit to me that it doesn't. I'm neither up nor down with it, to be perfectly honest. But obviously, I didn't live through it, and it was another. I dare say, if we were doing a podcast in the 90s when Rangers were dominant, and then we were having red and blue on the hoops, I can understand why a lot of fans were up in arms about it. And the away kit that year, it was horrible. It was like a kind of muddy brown greeny thing, and I'm sure it either had like a red or blue zigzag line. It looked like one of those shareholder type things, and obviously there was a lot of running joke at the time because it was going in the down direction. It was like the new kits, Celtic's finances, etc. So I can understand why those guys like Jed probably don't look back too fondly on those two efforts for Umbro.
Yeah, when I think of they tops in particular, I just think how shite we were as a football team then. That's all I'll remember. It was just piss poor. Really was.
Yeah. A sign of the times, Jed, you could say.
I can visualise it now, and it's putting the fear of God into me. So,
Jed mentioned something.
Monty and that, maybe I agree with this one. We were so bad at that in their period in history. So I associate that top with us being shite.
Jed mentioned something earlier, and it's actually quite interesting about the badge changing. And obviously the original crest, the stuff, the cross and that, when you go to Celtic Park and do the tour to take you through the history of the badges, and it's really interesting. Would either of you two be up for changing the badge ever again? Would that be a non-negotiable?
Just for what it's, I totally agree with Jed. I think it makes the centenary kit even more iconic.
Yes.
It's a stunning badge. Whoever designed that, they've nailed it. And I know nowadays, whenever it's been like the 140th year of Lisbon, for example, the 150th a few years back, the 125th anniversary of the club in 2012, they tend to just have like a little bit of like a kind of Gaelic design round the badge, just for one season. But yeah, as much as I love the centenary badge, unless it's for like, they might change it up again, for example, for when we turn 140 and then 150. Other than that, no, I love the crest the way it is with the shamrock. I have to say, or the 4-leaf clover. Sorry.
Yeah, that's honest. If I had to change, it would need to go back to the Celtic cross. That's the only two, in my opinion, allowed to have 4-leaf clover and the Celtic cross. That is it. It is. Both of them are so iconic in the history of the club. Again, that's one we cannot change. We can't do it. This is how I was brought up on the clover, 4-leaf clover, and then in the centenary year, and like you say, when you go and do the stadium tour, the first kit with the laces,
and the laces for it,
a black collar, or was it green collar? I think I can't, and I just know it was a collar that we cannot change from any of them. We can't go and modernise it. That is it. It's too iconic, too historic for people like me. Maybe the younger ones maybe are open to change. I'm not.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. And that's kind of, we'll kind of leave that there. I'm sure when the new strips get unveiled in the summer, we'll have another maybe kit spin off now that we've got all these graphics and that we can use, Stephen. But I think we were going to open it up now, weren't we, to the viewer takeover. And so, folks, if you've any question, Celtic or otherwise, that you want to ask either one of us or all of us, just fire it in the comments and we'll bring it up. I'll quickly just do one that Alistair brought up a little while ago, just when we were on the international front, asking about, what do we think about potentially Southgate for Manchester United after the summer. I personally can't. I would be lying if I said that I've been overly impressed by Ten Hag, Stephen. But I think, to be fair to him, he has had a lot of things flung at him in the 2 years he's been at United. And of course, the media will run with this narrative with the fact of, the fact that Jim Ratcliffe's come in and, they always like the new guy in the office likes to have his own man and all that kind of thing. But I would personally be very surprised if Southgate was if they do indeed replace Ten Hag. I would be shocked, unless it's on the back of England winning the Euros, that Southgate would even get a look in at a club as big as Man United. What do you think?
I mean, I know a fella after about 5 or 6 games under Ten Hag at Manchester United said that he was on a sugary peg. I wonder who that could be. I haven't quite spoken to him since. But I mean, it's look. I've said this before. I think Ten Hag is a fantastic manager. He done it with Ajax. He brought them to the Champions League semi-final, and he won numerous leagues in Holland and the Eredivisie. Look, I am no big lover of English football or the English national team. Quite frankly, couldn't give 2 flyers about 8 of them. But Southgate over Ten Hag for me is disastrous. Ten Hag needs to have a recruitment team behind him, much like Rodgers. Needs to have the right tools available. Needs to get rid of a few players, like I would say Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. I think they're just playboys and they moan too much for me and don't give 110%. And then when Ten Hag gets a chance to mould his team, to get his own targets in, then you might see United, like you said, the green shoots of recovery. Southgate shouldn't be considered for a top job. For me, I think he's failed with the players he's had available with him at England. I think he failed terribly against Croatia. I know you tried to say last night because they had Luka Modric, but if you're comparing the 2 teams, Anthony, England should have had a far superior outfit in that final. The Italian team, they just had a lot of know-how, a lot of street smarts, but again, a lot of aging players, a lot of older players, and I think they finished with players who were playing in like the lower half of Serie A against England in that game. So they should have had more than enough to see them both games over the line. He's a serial loser, in my opinion. England get handed the easiest qualifying campaigns you would ever see handed to a major nation, and they win them with ease. And it breeds this false narrative that they're going to bring football home. They're going to win every trophy imaginable. TalkSport turns into an orgy, and I can't be arsed listening to the likes of Ian Wright, the likes of whoever it may be, and who's bombing up England, Keown, all the rest of them, Gary Lineker, Micah Richards, even though I quite like Micah Richards, but seeing it gets around to these major tournament times, it's England this, it's England that, and time after time after time they fail, and I get so much satisfaction. And see, when I got beat by Iceland, and I swear to you, I cheered, I celebrated, because I can't stand them. And that's not because they're English or because of the English national team. It's this arrogance. It's this entitlement. It's thinking they're going to do everything, and they don't. They don't do nothing. Gareth Southgate is just another manager and a carousel of managers that England have had over the years. Capello, Roy Hodgson. I mean, when Roy Hodgson was in England, would you like him if United? No, you wouldn't. So it's pretty simple. So yeah, and it's just one of these things. I think it's just lazy journalism. Again, trying to push this Southgate narrative that he's a fantastic coach. He's not a fantastic coach. He's a man who's failed in multiple tournaments. That's what he is.
Stephen, I wish you would
always
say
one for sitting on the fence, Stephen.
What do you think, Jeff?
I could not disagree with one word that you said there. So well done.
Well, fair enough, boys. Well, we've got our first Celtic question in, so I think we'll just move swiftly on. I'll just throw it out to you, boys. Will or should Hatate play on the plastic pitch this weekend? What do you think?
Yeah, do you take it?
Oh, I want him to play before Ibrox. I'm just a bit worried about the plastic pitch, so I don't know. Have him on the bench in case we need to bring him on, but I wouldn't start him. I'm kind of sitting on the fence with that question, but very good question. If I were anywhere else, yes, I was saying he's got to play. He's got to play, but not at that pitch. Just not the full 90 minutes.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I'm going to come back. I'll give you Maestro's question. Stephen, I know it's right up your thing, mate. What about Celtic's scouting network and the next head of recruitment? Not sure necessarily we're looking for a specific name, but if you're Dermot Desmond, what are you? And if if we're to assume that we've got rid of one Lawwell, but doesn't necessarily look like we might be getting rid of the other one anytime soon. What is your what's your remit that Celtic scouting network and the next head of recruitment must be able to do in terms of supporting the manager?
How long forgot? But I think
we'll go an hour and a half tonight. Why not? Then depending on how many questions we get.
I think in terms of the scout department in the network, I was reading an article about Aberdeen recently. While they were hiring Neil Warnock, which was a disaster, they hired a team pretty much like Jim Radcliffe. No, his background company, is it Neos? They do a lot of sports recruitment, a lot of but whatever it's called. Forgive me on the pronunciation, but they hired this firm to come in and overhaul and to tell them what they need to do to become not an elite club, but improve their practices, improve their scouting, and improve their network and all that type of stuff. And I think that this certain company had success in Germany with likes of Hertha Berlin, different clubs of that nature and around that. And I think we need to think outside the box with this. We can't keep going down the same road all the time. We talked about director of football, and I think Franny has made a couple of good points. If we have a director of football, then it's cohesion for the next manager. It's a succession line to build up a short list to come in. And whatever players we have, whatever group we have, won't have to change the style. They won't have to up sticks and change from an attacking formation to defensive formation. You always have that streamlined coach to come in and fit the system we already have. The network in itself, I mean, our head of European scouting managed the fucking golf shop before he came to us. I think that's an absolute joke. Craig Strachan, another job for the boys type thing. And that phrase, we're world class in everything we do. No, that's amateur crap. That's a favour I would get asked to do for my local Sunday League club if they needed an extra coach. Go down and throw on an extra drill. That's not how you should do anything. If we're the world's best in everything we should do, we need to employ the best people we can afford. We need the infrastructure around Lennoxtown needs improved. And I think before Postecoglou left, he was talking about we need more analytics. We need big investment in data, reading data. We need big investment in sports science. And we need all that to be a successful club. And it's replicating a certain model. And we've had many a back and forth about this, Anthony. We don't need to replicate one particular club. But if we can pick the brains of 6 or 7 clubs who've been through this process and merge it together and make a package for the club going forward, a succession plan, because every time that we don't plan for success, we end up in failure. We all know that. And then we're catching up again. And it's a repeat. It's insanity doing the same thing over and over again. And it needs to stop being jobs for the boys. I'd be looking far afield. I'd be looking at coaches. I'd be looking at scouts from Europe, from Asia, just to give us head into the market, get ahead of the curve, get better in data science, read players' analytics better, Y Scout, whatever you need to use, get that going, because at the end of the day, we need every edge we can get in the transfer market. And if we can do that, then we could be more successful in European football, in my opinion.
Seen a bit of green a lot tonight, Stephen. Again,
yeah. John, we've obviously brought you're saying if the board showed themselves the hypocrisy of Anthony. I'm just going to double check with him. Jed, feel free to bring it. I'm just wondering if he could expand on it. Because I know there's so many different issues, but if you go with what you think he might be.
My take on that has really been my bugbear. I've actually said on this podcast before, yes, Airboard has been so hypocritical with the North Curve. It's unbelievable. when you think back, when we played Lazio, the stadium DJ, whatever you want to call him, plays Bella Ciao, an Italian anti-fascist song against Lazio, and we all know what Lazio's roots are and what their fans believe in. We also play a song at every single game. It has the words, "I know you are oppressed, and songs we can protest." This is played every game by our club. And then they come out and say they got on to the Green. Yes, the Green Brigade have done a lot of things wrong, but I'm full backing them with this. Our club was founded because of oppression, and we should never, ever forget that. People have a voice. We live in a democratic country. When people can see what's going on in the world just now, and a lot of people are very angry, and by showing support, by having flags or whatever, that is fine, as long as they're not terrorist flags. But having a Palestinian flag, in my opinion, is not a terrorist flag. So, fantastic question. Makes my blood boil, because the club are totally hypocritical when it comes to some of the things the Green Brigade do, because they do it themselves with their songs. They attach on to the club as well with bringing island this, island that. So they can't pick and choose when they want to do it. When certain fans then come out, you can't then bring them down because they're just as bad. When I can always, that night against Lazio, when they played that song over the tannoy, I thought, how can they even criticise any of the fans for doing that?
Is it? I maybe have missed some here. Has something been said in the last couple of days regarding something? Because I mean, even when the Green Brigade were not at Celtic Park for those few games, I mean, the remaining members were still waving Palestine flags in the middle of a large police presence and steward presence, and nothing was done. If they came out and said something specific against the Palestine flag in the last couple of days, that I've maybe not been.
No, I think it's just I maybe looked at it wrong. With John would maybe say again. I know they've come out. The North Cover came out with criticism. They wanted to go and support the Celtic women's team and be at the traditional Celtic end again for the Celtic block, so the boys and the Green Brigade could get together, which they've done a couple of times again for the women, to show their support, because as we all know, that's what they want. They want that to be a complete standing section, and it's going to be like their version of the Borussia Dortmund's The Wall. That's the other thing that John could have been getting at. But I was more going down the line of how our board have been hypocritical. And I have said on here as well, being supportive of the Palestinian people does not make you anti-Semitic.
Oh, of course.
There's a massive difference. And that's what really bugs me as well.
Can I jump in here? And
it
hasn't been talked about enough, right? So for the months leading up to Leila Bada's departure, the support were left in limbo because the Celtic board didn't come out and back them. As Jed rightly said there, we've been labelled anti-Semitic, been labelled different things from different people around the world, and the board didn't come out once and back the fans publicly. What it took is the Charlotte Football Club manager actually came out publicly and said Leila Bada didn't leave because of the support. The Celtic board didn't have the fucking backbone to come out and back their own support during this whole saga and say it's not the fans' fault. And there were so many questions that were left unanswered, and it took a manager in the MLS to put the fire out, and it's gone onto the carpet since. No one has ever spoke about it ever again, and it's disgraceful. And I think a lot of people in society, a lot of people in our own boardroom, need to understand, whether we like it or not, Celtic Football Club is a political football club born from oppression from the Irish people, founded over in Scotland, and it was designed by Brother Walford to put food on the tables of the people who are oppressed. We're turning our back on that culture. We're turning our back on freedom of speech because we're getting thinged by UEFA, by FIFA. We should be standing up to this as a club. And let's put it bluntly as well. Every single person in the world can say what they want. It's freedom of speech. You shouldn't be shot down for it. I totally agree. You keep the tourist emblems out of it. You keep the tourist flags out of it. Don't bring that into a football venue. No way. But if you're singing songs about being oppressed, if you're backing a culture that's being oppressed for everyone to see, then there's nothing wrong with that. It gives people a voice. It shines a spotlight on the issue. And people may say, what good will that do? It may not do any good, but it shows their support throughout the world for the people of Palestine and the innocent people who are being slaughtered on a daily basis. And it's a total disgrace. And like Jed, it boils my blood. People forget how this club was founded and are so quick to judge. They're so quick to throw stuff at the Green Brigade. But let's be fair, the guys are true to their colours. Do you know what I mean? And that's what they are. Do we agree with everything they do? No, I don't. Don't think Jed does. I don't think we all do. But at the end of the day, there's a thing called freedom of speech and banning fans. And like you said, and that annoyed me, Anthony. The small band of support that were still left within that Green Brigade curve, surrounded by a heavy police presence. A heavy police presence at their home ground. It's a total disgrace. And we're so quick when we get a couple of wins to forget about the issues that are ongoing. So quick to do it. And it gets swept away and no one talks about it. And I find it a shame, to be honest.
I mean, Fabina, I don't recall. I mean, that area always is pretty heavily policed. I don't recall it.
I'm not saying you annoyed me. I'm not saying you.
No,
I'm just
yes,
saying.
you didn't. No,
Yeah.
but it's fair enough. I mean, as I said, you know, I'm done. We know we don't necessarily agree on that. I mean, I don't think Celtic is a political football club, as much as I do agree that I'm not one of the people that say directly that politics and sports should be kept separate. I don't necessarily agree with that opinion. And of course, goes without saying, my sympathies would definitely be on the side of Palestine and all the horrific stuff that's going over there. I think, not that I'm defending them, I think in regards to the Leela Bada situation, you're absolutely spot on. Where I think Celtic should be more proactive is, I mean, they obviously did respond to the Israeli manager, but they perhaps didn't do it in as public a way as what a lot of supporters would have wanted. Rightly or wrongly, I think a lot of the time Celtic have got to perhaps be a bit more proactive on that kind of thing. But I think the way they should do it, but if a journalist prints that, then they just shouldn't get back in the ground. That's always been the way I should do it, and I think that was one of the ones that they haven't been proactive on. It's like there's certain things that gets a journalist banned, but not necessarily decrying, painting Celtic fans in the wrong light. I mean,
Anthony, I think what Brown Warrior says, if you can see it in the comments, is a good.
Sorry,
is pretty much.
Where is it? Sorry. Yeah.
That's
fair enough. I think. Sorry, I meant to click it there. Sorry. Where was it? Oh, sugar. Right, there we go. Yeah, I think that's one of the things as well. And obviously, you're right, Stephen, in the fact that they say that it's, they claim that they live in a democracy, but yet it's fair game to have a go at the young man down south who played. Oh, what's his name? The Irish boy. He gets it every year for not wearing.
James McLean.
McLean, that's right. Yeah, his name escaped me for a minute there. Yeah, I think that's the problem with this society. I think it's okay for some, but not for the other, and for different things.
I think as well. Going back when that got brought up about the poppy. I mean, years ago, it was when I was brought up. The poppy was to do with the World Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Then they stretched it out, and how I no longer wear one is because it's been hijacked by the far right in the UK. Whether it be what I call the National Front, whether it be the Orange Lodge or anything like that, to me, that's what people fought against in the First and Second World War.
There's an irony to it, Jed, yeah.
I know, and I can't. So when I see that now, I associate that with racism, right or wrong. Mm-hmm. I associate that sign, that poppy wasn't brought out for that. It was to honour the people from, doesn't matter what the colour, creed, religion, that lost their lives during the First and Second World War. But unfortunately, in my opinion, it's been hijacked by the far right in Scotland, in England, Wales, and the north of Ireland, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think, it's and it used to be quite, I always used to think remembrance, the remembrance period, and certainly remembrance, it used to be, like you say, what it was potentially, what it should be for. It was for your own remembrance, quiet, peaceful. Whereas I find the whole thing now like a kind of gigantic, flag waving, kind of North Korea type. It used to just be a simple poppy. Now you get blooming big brooches with green leaves sticking out it, and got, women newsreader presenters have got it in their hair bands, and then you've got guys with a big poppy suit jackets and all that, and it's becoming a fashion show, really.
Anthony, the whole point was the people who died was to give people like us, our parents, our grandparents, whatever it was my parents, because they were born before the war, to give them the freedom and the choice to do that, to have that. So people have the choice not to wear it. Or if they want to wear it, they have that choice. So please, if people want to wear it, fine. I told you the reason when I see it in certain people, I think you're only wearing it because of that. But if people don't want to wear it, they have the reasons why they don't want to wear it. So just let people do what they want to do.
Can I just say as well, I can see in the comments, this topic causes, obviously, people with different opinions and backgrounds. That's fair enough. We're not saying one side's right, one side's wrong. We're just giving our own personal opinions on that matter. Most of it was to do with Abada leaving, but obviously you get sidetracked. I can see Kieran typing in capital letters. Look, I totally get your point. That's fair enough, and other people difference of agreements and stuff. As Jed said,
I can't see the comments. As people, what they're saying is it.
So it's just people. No one's getting at us. I just think they're having a wee debate in the comments. But what I'm saying is, as Jed said there, do what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? Do what you want to do. That's fair. I think we're pointing out the
hypocrisy.
Well, that word. I was about to say it, but I couldn't get it out. We're pointing that out. That the fact is, we get kind of degraded for the whole Palestine thing, and then you see others, blah blah blah, and certain other days they can get away with it. And I think that the point you made, Jed, about the songs within the stadium, the letting people sing and Bella Ciao and all that. I mean, if you can play them, then why are you getting that in the Green Brigade? So it's a bit of it's a strange one. Do you know what I mean? It is a really strange one.
So I can't remember where it was now. I'm just trying to go. I'm just realising my finger just keeps coming on the camera there when I'm scrolling up and down. I think the last football question we had, and I'll leave it to you guys to round it off.
I've went there.
No, you're fine, mate. That's what the double pivot's all about. I think it was Alistair that says, would you have John Park back in the scouting set up at Celtic Park?
For me, no. Again, that's going back to the same old. We had John Park for a while, and he gave us Wanyama, Van Dijk, and all them likes of players, and he was a good scout. I think he was nicknamed the Super Scout at one point under Neil Lennon. But look, I think that time's gone now. And as I said, I want to go down a new age route with data, sports science, because all these top clubs are using it, so it must be good for something. I know we're using it, but I think we're not utilising it to its full potential. And if you tap into that, maybe we could get that extra level in European football. John Park was good for the time that we needed him under Neil Lennon as that young, inexperienced coach. He was able to kind of bring these players in who had high potential and a high sell-on value, but his time's gone. I think he actually worked for Rangers, didn't he, for a short period of time? Which again, yeah. Paddy Lavery. But it's good to see you back, Paddy Lavery. It's been a while since you've been in the comments, so it's good to see you back in. A guy named, Kieran, 100% about freedom and love. We're all with that here. That's the kind of vibe we're going for. But John Park for me, his time's been and gone, hasn't he?
What about yourself, Jed? Just to round it off.
I think we need to look fresh. We need to look at the new up and coming ideas. I've battered on about the way Brighton do business. They're looking way in front, even for they're already looking at new potential managers. They've always got to do that. They are so data driven on going to South America and getting these players for peanuts. We need to be looking at something like that. definitely. It's an evolving world, and we have to keep up. We have to actually not just keep up with it. We have to try and get ahead of it, or we're going to get left behind. So
look at the wee fella. Look at the wee fella who came on and scored for Brazil against England. 17, Eldrick.
Yeah.
I know he's going to Real Madrid, obviously, but it's like them players are out there. If you get ahead of the curve and you've seen him before a certain club, you never know. You might be able to get in and get him before a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich get him. But he looked a fantastic player. He was playing against England there for the Brazil game. Very quick, very direct. Obviously, like most of their forward attacking players, but there is players out there that maybe we can get before all the big clubs do.
We tried to get when Ronnie Dyler was there as the captain of Arsenal. They went to Real Madrid. Or Odegaard, is it?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, but Ronnie Dyler was hoping to get. I always, that's one for me. Got away.
Great player, to be fair, Jed. Absolutely. And I think we'll call it a night there. And Paul, as long as Stephen's not the new head of recruitment, he would bring in 11 Bernabéus. I think we will leave it at that. I'm sure you would be better than that.
We can't go yet. Need to do the score predictions, Anthony.
All right, on you go, mate. You've got them all here.
So we'll crack on with the score predictions. So this is for our SPFL score predictions. I read out the table last week. That's still the version. So this is getting into the new week of the SPL. So looking at this, so myself, I've went Aberdeen 3, Ross County 1, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 2, Motherwell 1, St Mirren 2, Rangers 1, Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0, Dundee 0, Livingston 0, Celtic 2. Anthony from the Jungle Gyms, who's with us now, has went Aberdeen 1, Ross County 2, Hearts 0, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 2, St Mirren 0, Rangers 1, Hibs 2, St Johnstone 2, Dundee 0, Livingston 1, Celtic 4. Jed, yourself, you've went Aberdeen 3, Ross County 1, Hearts 1, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 2, St Mirren 1, Rangers 1, Hibs 1, like myself, St Johnstone 2, Dundee 0, Livingston 0, Celtic 3. Gavin has went Aberdeen 2, Ross County 0, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 0, Motherwell 1, St Mirren 2, Rangers 3, Hibs 0, St Johnstone 1, Dundee 0, Livingston 1, Celtic 3. And Anthony with the Graham, as you can see, with a wee smiley face beside it. Aberdeen 2, Ross County 0, Hearts 3, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 0, St Mirren 1, Rangers 1, Hibs 2. He's hiding behind that, isn't he? St Johnstone 1, Dundee 0, Livingston 1, Celtic 3. And then finally, to round it off, we've got James, Aberdeen 2, Ross County 0, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 1, St Mirren 1, St Johnstone 0, Dundee 1, Rangers 2, Hibs 0, Celtic 4, Livingston 0. Ross has went Aberdeen 2, Ross County 0, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 1, St Mirren 1, Rangers 3, Hibs 0, St Johnstone 2, Dundee 1, Livingston 1, Celtic 3. Willie's went Aberdeen 1, Ross County 1, Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 2, St Mirren 1, Rangers 3, Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0, Dundee 2, Livingston 0, Celtic 4. And Franny kind of messed it up there, as you can see. Aberdeen's went 2-0, Ross County 0, 2-0. See, imagine being the fitted printer guide final score. Yeah, I'd be sacked.
This is not the
Hearts 2, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 2, St Mirren 1, Rangers 3, Aberdeen 0, St Johnstone 1, Dundee 0, and Livingston 0, Celtic 3. And that rounds off the score predictions.
Takes it out you that one, doesn't it?
It does, man. It's actually, do you know what it's like? I always say that when I'm on doing this, it's like the final score at the end. No one that goes to like League 1, League 2. How does he do it? He must be paid a bucket load. There's no way.
Oh, no. Got the throat lozenges in before he gets started, I think. Well, in terms of tonight's show, boys, that is it. Have you enjoyed that, Steve? It looks like you've got a lot off your chest tonight.
Oh, man, it's been good to be back. Good to be back.
No, absolutely. It's been good. It's obviously with a couple of episodes off there just to recharge ahead of the final push, hopefully for this league and Scottish Cup double. And obviously the boys are back on Friday night. I'm not sure who it is it's on, Stephen, but
it's myself, Ross, and James.
Good lineup. So you boys will be getting stuck into all things. Well, as I say, probably talking about the court case coming up, and obviously the trip to Almondvale as well. So absolutely another bumper show on Friday night, guys. We'll be back at 8:30. Thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. Hope you have enjoyed it, and we shall see you on Friday night. But until then, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.